And Ms. Rollator, if you'd had a moment to catch your breath, as always, we would very much appreciate it if you would lead us in prayer. Would you please stand?
Please join me in prayer.
Dear God, first, we thank you for keeping our children safe during the past 2 weeks of political division and national dysfunction. Continue to keep your loving arms around our children, staff, administrators, and everyone on this board. APJ Abdul Kalam once stated, "Let us sacrifice ourselves today so that our children will have a better tomorrow." Bless this meeting tonight to enable us to serve the children of Granville County Schools in fairness, joy, and strength. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Would you please remain standing? As a reminder of the outstanding students we serve, I'd like to invite one of our students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we've invited Jackson Bowles from Duncan Chapel Elementary School to lead us. Jackson is described by his teachers as an excited and eager learner. He's naturally inquisitive and goes above and beyond in his quest to grow and learn more. Jackson is well respected by teachers and peers and currently serves as Student Council Vice President. After school, he participates in the Arms Drama Program. Jackson, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. I'd like to thank Vice Chairman Bush and Expressions Unlimited for generously donating these beautiful flowers, which I know that in the early days, she said, is meant to inspire us to do our best work for children, and I've always remembered that. Thank you so much, Ms. Bush. We have a special presentation to make before we begin our business items, and it is our privilege to recognize 3 outstanding employees who went above and beyond in crisis situations last week. I'll ask Mr. Meek, Ms. Rollator, and Ms. Goodwin Caldwell to please step forward to the podium to help present the awards.
So I'll stay on the script here. I'm going to read it. Absolutely. Tonight, it is our honor to present the Miracle Workers Award to 3 heroic Granville County Schools staff members. The Miracle Workers Award was first approved by the board in 1996 to recognize individuals for going beyond the call of duty. To my knowledge, and I've been here for 24 years, this honor has been bestowed fewer than a dozen times in 22 years. So it's a great honor. Ms. Rollator. Yeah, you. No. Hey, read the first paragraph. I changed it.
On March 20th, a tractor-trailer lost control on a curve on Fairview Road in Simpsonville and hit one of our special needs school buses head-on. The truck also hit a utility pole, and as a result, a power line landed on the bus. The 4 students on board were unhurt. As seen in the video that has made the national news...
Oh, just a minute. I changed the script. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
my God.
God. 818 to base. I'm on Fairview Road. I'm at, I think it's 6 Fairview Road. A transfer truck has just ran off the road and hit me. Everybody on my bus is okay, but we do need an ambulance and a fire truck. The power lines are down. We cannot move. Okay, I'm going to cut off my bus, guys. It's safer right here because the power line is down. And I don't know if it's connected to the bus, but just y'all listen now. Yeah, let's keep them on the bus. Come on, hey, we good, buddy. Come on, let's play a game. Come on. Sit down. We're good. Let's play a game. Okay? Come on. Hey, you got your phone. Sit over for me, man. Hey. Okay. Yeah, come on, don't sit with you. Show me a game. What kind of game we got on your phone? Show me a game.
Because the script was incorrect, I will begin again. On March 20th, a tractor-trailer lost control on a curve in Fairview Road in Simpsonville and hit one of our special needs school buses head-on. The truck also hit a utility pole, and as a result, a power line landed on the bus. The 4 students on board were unhurt. As seen in the video that has made the national news, the bus driver, Tammy Cummings, and her aide, Carletta Cyrus, reacted immediately and impeccably. Ms. Cummings is a veteran driver who actually trains other special needs drivers. She used her training to slow down the bus before the impact, then made sure the bus was secured, that the area around the bus was clear, checked on the health of the children, and called for EMS and the fire department. Ms. Cyrus and Mrs. Cummings kept the children calm and occupied while they waited for help to survive, engaging them in games and comforting them. Both Mrs. Cunningham and Mrs. Cyrus returned to work and ran their route the day after the crash. The video of the wreck and their response will be used in future bus driving training. Parents of the special needs students in their care are calling them heroes, and we agree.
The following day, March 21st, Brenda Copeland volunteered to take students home from Southside High School because their bus driver was running late on a middle school route. While traveling on Old Grove Road with 6 students still on board, a dead pine tree fell on top of the bus, crushing the roof along the entire length of the vehicle.
Get off the bus, guys. Hold on. Yeah, everybody back. Oh, God. 12:23. Is everybody back there okay? Everybody back there okay? A tree hit the bus on Grove Road. I think all my students are okay. I have some. Come on, guys. I'm not sure. Come on, guys. Is everybody in the back okay? Can you go to the back? Everybody okay? I don't know back there. Oh my God, that tree stick. Come on, guys. Are y'all all right? Oh, God.
Miss Brenda, repeat what's going on, please.
There's a tree hit the bus. We need EMS. We're on Grove Road. Is everybody back there okay?
Although she had not seen the tree falling, Mrs. Copeland sprang into action immediately after the crash and did not pause to check on her own condition, but was concerned only with the students. Mrs. Copeland radioed into dispatch for EMS and law enforcement and immediately returned her attention to her students. It was evident that the 3 students sitting near the front of the bus had no serious injuries, but she was not able to see the 3 students at the back of the bus, and she had not heard them respond when she called out to them. A bystander approached to render assistance. Without hesitation, Mrs. Copeland sent him to the emergency exit door at the back to check on those students. The students were evacuated from the bus safely with the help of Mrs. Copeland and a couple of good Samaritans. 5 of the 6 students on board were transported to the hospital with minor injuries. When a supervisor called to check on her that evening, before he could ask how she was feeling, Ms. Copeland asked for an update on the hospitalized students. One of the good Samaritans that gave assistance to Mrs. Copeland was Alonzo Graffereed. He was driving behind the bus and seeing the incident as it occurred, and when he was contacted today by Mr. Meek, this is what he had to say about the incident. It was my duty to help those kids, and I would do it again with no hesitation. I am just very grateful that I was there to help. The real hero was the bus driver. She did an amazing job, Mr. Graffereed. I agree.
And I guess if the 3 recipients will come forward. Ms. Cummings, Ms. Cyrus, Ms. Copeland. The actions of Ms. Cummings, Ms. Cyrus, and Ms. Copeland after these 2 incidents last week serve as an example of how we all hope we would react during a crisis. They kept their calm in unexpected situations, utilized all their training, and showed immense love and care for the children they transport. It is our honor and good fortune that they choose to be a part of the Granville County Schools family. Tonight, we ask you to join us in recognizing Tammy Cummings, Carletta Cyrus, and Brenda Copeland with the Granville County School Board of Trustees Miracle Worker Award.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda...
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I forgot. Can I have a moment of privilege, please?
Sure.
I think we have some members of the bus center from Donaldson Center and maybe some others. I'm not sure. If you wouldn't mind standing, let us recognize you also. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Appreciate you pointing out that they are in the audience joining us. Thank you so much. Next is the appearance of visitors. And before we begin, I wondered if our secretary, Ms. LaVentus Wells, might notify us of any other special guests in the audience, and then read the rules of engagement for us.
The students from Furman, if you would be so kind as to stand, please. Thank y'all for coming. It looks like we have a
Yay.
good group. Looks like we have a couple of basketball players from Coach Jackie Smith Carson, who I once assisted coach, so thank you. USC Upstate, Furman, Granville Tech, and all of our high school students, if you're in the audience, please stand. Okay. I think we've covered it then. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you please read the rules before the speakers begin?
Thank you so much. Welcome to those who have signed up to speak tonight before the Board of Trustees, and thank you for your interest in Greenville County Schools. Before we begin, let me remind everyone of the following procedures. As each speaker's name is called, he or she should proceed to the podium at the end of the board dais, where there is a microphone and a light system. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak to the board. The light system will be green for the first 2 minutes and will turn yellow when 1 minute remains on the speaker's allotted time. In keeping with board policy KCA, abusive language or personal attacks aimed at students or staff members will not be permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Mr. Bob Davis.
I promise not to take more than the time, but I'm concerned about whether we are going to be considered at the end of this life gatherers or scatterers. You know, the Word of God tells us that that God's going to judge every human being. Not the world system, but God alone is going to judge all mankind. And a scatterer is someone that's not following what Christ said. And I have an article here about secular humanism and how it has penetrated the public schools. And if I read you some quotes here, some of you might bring a gun and want to do away with the public school system. But it calls Christianity the rotting corpse of Christianity. That's being presented as an idea to our students today. And that you can believe anything you want to and it's all right. You can practice anything you want to and it's all right. God forbid. One of our early people in England, Lord Shaftesbury, the 7th Earl of Ashley, wrote this. He said, "Education without religion and morality results only in a race of clever devils." And that's what Jesus had to contend with. And he's still fighting today. And you know, there's one thing that will stop all these guns that are being brought to the school and stop the acid in the face and the knives that are cutting people and the swords slicing people. The golden rule, Jesus Christ said, if you do something unto other men, you should have them do the same thing to you. In other words, do not do to other men. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And he's the only living being that ever said that and taught men that you don't have to worry about guns. If you're doing the right thing, you will do away with all these evil thoughts and these liberal thinkers. But the world doesn't want that. And so, folks, I say tonight, we're in a lot of trouble in this country, and secular humanism is being taught. It's the new religion. It's Satan's religion. It's not of God. And it is simply that every man is right. Every belief system is right. And in the Old Testament, in Judges 17:6, it says, "In those days there was no king in Israel, and every man did that which was right in his own eyes." That's exactly the way we're going today. Everybody living the way he wants to live without any controls from a higher authority. Someone who rules and reigns and will judge you at the end of this life. And folks, we need to have a spiritual awakening through Christianity in this country, or we're going to lose it. And I hear every day on the talk radio of people saying, we're losing our country. If you follow the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do also even unto you, you will stop a lot of this nonsense, but you've got to teach the Bible to the children. That's what our country was founded on. I have a book, it's called America's Source of Law and Liberty, was the Bible. The Bible was America's source of law and liberty. And it's the only book that can straighten out things. And if you're not straightened out, you better get straightened out, because the Lord's coming back soon. And He's going to put an end to this.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And as you heard in the rules of engagement, anyone can come here to speak for 3 minutes about any topic, but in the future, please refrain from any specific mention of potential violence from the podium. Thank you. The next speaker we have is Cynthia Sexton.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to share a concern with you. My concern is a question of the accountability of teachers in the selection of reading materials, primarily for advanced placement courses. Several years ago, I questioned the use of a particular book being used in my son's advanced placement literature class after he made a comment to me about its contents. I read 5 or 6 pages. He chose to ask for a different book. He received a different book. I later read the entire book, and I was absolutely appalled. I cannot tell you how appalled I was that such a book would be offered for students. It was rife with cursing. It used God's name in vain, I do not know how many times. And there were many, many other things that I do not have time to mention here tonight, and probably wouldn't if I did have the time. But that was the material chosen for that class. I questioned the use of such a book. I learned that AP syllabus must be approved by the college board, and teachers were left to decide what to use. The book was available through the district book center. I was told that I would receive a call about my questions, and that did not happen. It seemed highly unlikely at that point that a book challenge would be of any real benefit, so I did not pursue it any further. Reluctantly, I did not. But I have not forgotten this. It still bothers me a lot. I do not know if this particular title is still being used. I don't know what titles are being used right now. School district policy states that teachers are responsible to apply sound judgment in selecting and using materials. How is the policy enforced, and who is responsible for holding teachers responsible? The title in question seemed to have flown under the radar, if there was indeed a radar at all there. The syllabus was sent home. I read it, I signed it. It included titles of material that were going to be used, and there may have been a brief description. I really, honestly, I don't remember at this point. But had there been any red flags there, I would have caught them while reading the syllabus. Parents should be alerted to the nature of the material so that they can be proactive instead of reactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, item 5.01. Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Dr. O'Connor. Good evening. I do not have a formal superintendent's report tonight. You all spent a good bit of this afternoon engaged in some dialogue with us, and going to spend a good portion of Thursday with us talking about the budget. And I think Mr. Knotts is particularly excited about that opportunity on Thursday. And so I'm going to forego a formal report tonight, but I do want to introduce some folks. I want to introduce those newly appointed principals. And I want to start with those for whom this will be their first principalship. Let's begin with Joseph Stowe. Joseph is currently assistant principal at Taylor's, and he is, as of a few minutes ago, the new principal at Grove Elementary School. and obviously his first principalship, which we are extremely proud of him reaching that goal, and look forward to his leadership at Grove. Joseph, do you have anyone with you tonight, or? I do not. You're all right. We're glad to have you here and welcome you to your new role in leadership at Grove Elementary School. Congratulations. Another new appointment, previously serving as assistant principal, or currently serving as assistant principal at Malden, is Dara Huffman. Dara is a newly appointed principal at Riverside High School. Again, her first principalship. Extremely proud of you, Dara, and look forward to your leadership there and the opportunity to work with you. Do you have others with you tonight? All right, very good. We welcome you. So next to Dara is the newly appointed principal at Woodmont High School, currently assistant principal for instruction at Wade Hampton High, Joe Foster. Joe, congratulations on your first principalship. We look forward to your leadership at Woodmont and having you as a part of the team there, as a part of the district leadership team as a newly appointed principal. Now, I believe you have some folks with you.
I do. My wife, Heather, my daughter, Tegan, and my son, Toby.
And maybe one more down there on the end. Your oldest boy, Eric. Not another son, but his current principal, I'm sure, is also proud of your accomplishment tonight. And we welcome each of you here tonight, and again, congratulations, Joe. And rounding out those who are being appointed to their first principalship, Sean McCain, who is now the newly appointed principal at Ellen Woodside Elementary School. He has served there in the past as a teacher and assistant principal, but will be coming to his new responsibilities from the assistant principalship at Plain. Sean, congratulations. We welcome you to your leadership role. We look forward to having you serving that community in that new role. Do you have some folks with you as well?
I do. I have my wife, Carrie, my son, Tanner, my son, Alex, and my daughter, Ashley.
Very good. Glad to have you all here tonight. Our last recognition, someone not new to a district leadership role and not new to principalship role, but Dr. Kathy Greer, who is the newly appointed Director of Alternative Programs for the district, currently serving as the Director of Adult and Community Education from Lexington District 5, and having previously served in the past as a principal specialist at the State Department and as a high school principal. And we welcome Dr. Greer as she brings her leadership to this new role for her, and a little bit revised role for the district in Director of Alternative Programs, bringing together under that umbrella all of our middle and high school level alternative programs, as well as our adult ed and other related programs. So Dr. Greer, we welcome you to Granville County Schools, welcome you to your new role. Congratulations. Do you have anyone with you tonight? No, some of these other folks have enough folks they can, I'm sure, can share around some of those people they have brought with them. Again, welcome to Granville County Schools. Thank you, Dr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Dr. Oyster. Our next item on the agenda, item 6.01, innovative courses. The recommended motion coming from the Committee of the Whole is to approve the local board courses as presented. Since it is coming from committee, it doesn't require a second. I would ask if Mr. McCoy would mind just reading over the list of courses so the audience would be able to hear those that we are adopting tonight. If you don't have it, I do. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So the course we'll be adopting or proposing for adoption tonight is Art 1 Honors, Art 2 Honors, French Language Art 7th Honors, French Language Art 8th Honors, Honors Biomedical Engineering, Honors Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Introduction to Engineering Design Honors, Spanish Language Arts 7th and 8th Honors, Sports Medicine Honors, Health Science 2 Honors, and Principles of Engineering Honors. Those are honors courses that we are now allowed to offer at the honors level under the new South Carolina honors rubric. We are also requesting the following courses being proposed under the innovative course process: French Immersion Social Studies 6, French Immersion Social Studies 8, and French Language Arts 8.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Are there any questions or comments by board members on this item? Ms. Wells?
Yeah, just a question since I missed the committee of the whole. I'm sorry. These courses where we've used the honors rubric, is the district taking the lead on developing the honors, or are we having these come up from schools and then you guys are reviewing them? How's that working?
Yeah, so right now, we sent out a list, a form to schools this past summer when that was passed by the State Department as far as what courses they would like us to start on. As you know from the honors rubric, it's a pretty lengthy process. My team at the district office here does not develop those courses. We solicit teachers who are teaching those courses to come together and build that, so we have multiple perspectives across the district. And so as those teams are built, then they develop those courses. So we have probably another 10. We probably have another 10 in the works currently. And then, of course, we have some others that are interested in building honors courses. We just have to build the teams to actually start designing those courses.
Okay, so that was my other question. So we have 10 more that are kind of in the pipeline that we know we're going to add honors.
Yeah, some of those they are looking at the feasibility of creating them honors given the strict guidelines from the State Department. But we have 10 that we're looking at currently as far as proposing next time.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. O'Connor.
Okay, the motion is to approve the local board courses as presented. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, 6.02, is the approval of fund balance expenditures. And the recommended action is to approve assigning $4,185,000 of the general fund balance to fund 4 items related to safe, efficient transportation and school security. Dr. Royster?
I don't have a detailed presentation. As you know, we went over that in the committee of the whole. You all asked questions, had general discussion about it. But simply as a reminder, 3 of these 4 items go directly to enhancing safety and security in our schools. One having to do with replacing the 95, 96, and should be 97 model activity buses that are prone to thermal events, $1.6 million. Second one, going directly to safety and security, is to accelerate the security camera replacement project and the enhancement of those camera systems, $2 million to move that forward as rapidly as possible. You all saw a demonstration to Committee of the Whole as to the capabilities of the newly revised system and how that will enhance our security. And the third item that goes directly to safety and security is increasing the zone patrols by law enforcement at elementary and other school sites for the remainder of the 17-18 school year. We've done that on an accelerated basis for the last several weeks since the incident in Florida. This amount would carry us through to the end of the year at a much greatly enhanced rate of visits during the day and a much smaller geographic area for those patrols to cover. You will also see a general fund budget recommendation for that going into next year. And also the last item, which doesn't directly relate to safety and security but enhancing transportation, that's the purchase of 2 15-passenger and 3 30-passenger compliant school buses for us to use on a pilot basis to try to address some of the most rural and extended routes that we have and cut down the amount of time those students would spend on the bus. Thank you.
Thank you for summarizing that, and I know that a lot of board members have worked hard and helped along in a collaborative effort to get us to this point. Would any of you perhaps like to speak to this item or ask questions or make comments? Mr. Lewis?
If I could just ask a couple of questions. I apologize, I missed the committee of the whole meeting. And so first, yes, Madam Chairman, I really appreciate the superintendent for helping us work through the recommendations for the school bus safety policies that we came up with this year, and I'm excited to see 2 of these recommendations being put into place here. Can I just clarify, Dr. Ruster, that number 1, this $1.6 million, it would remove all 95 and 96 buses? The student activity buses?
From our activity fleet, it will remove the 95, 96s, and it actually should read 97 models that are the rear-engine Thomas-built buses prone to thermal events. Now, there could be a 95, 96, or 97, not one of those type buses that could still be in the fleet.
Okay, thank you. And
yes, sir.
The 15 passenger buses that we're piloting on the rural routes, do we know yet where or how those will be piloted, or is that to be determined later?
Mr. James, who was here earlier, I think he may already be gone, and Mr. Davey actually have routes predetermined that they worked out. That's how we actually came up with the decision to recommend two 15s and 3 30s.
Okay.
So they already have 5 identified routes.
And is it correct, we still at this point plan on using CDL drivers to drive these 14 passenger buses, even though there was talk at one point about requesting for the state to remove that reg? That reg hasn't changed.
That reg has not changed, and we would need to have some additional discussion about that because of want to ensure we have the safest drivers behind the wheel as possible. So at this point, they would have to have a CDL. They wouldn't have to have a Class B. They could have a Class C CDL, but they would have to have a CDL and a state school bus license.
Thanks. And then the last question is the security camera replacement cycle. So if I think we discussed yesterday at the security meeting that this is kind of limited to subcontractors being able to do this work, but is there kind of an end date when we would hope to have all of these cameras done if things kind of move as scheduled?
We have to move this from a 2-year project down to completion mid-fall, Mr. Mills. Again, it's really, there are two factors here. One, where we're using funds that we would accrue over time for the project. That's what gave us the initial, I guess would have been initial a 3-year outlay. This will roll it back as quick as we can do the work. The second limiting factor is the availability of subcontractors. And our folks have organized this in the most efficient manner possible. They pre-order all the equipment. They'll pre-order some more with this funding. We have the equipment sitting in the warehouse. As soon as the subcontractor, we can secure them and get them on site. They put it in as quickly as possible. We make the final connections internally to our system. So it's dependent on subcontractor availability, our crew availability, obviously a certain amount of work they can do in a certain amount of time, and then having the funding there to pay the subcontractor, buy the equipment and pre-position the equipment in the warehouse. So we've gone a long way here, if you all approve, assuming your approval of this, to speeding up the parts of that we can speed up.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Thank
yes,
you, Dr.
sir.
Chair.
Okay, Mr. Meek.
Thank you. Dr. Royster, I did hear you say that in the general fund budget for next year, you will be putting some additional funds in for more secure schools.
Yes, sir. Specifically continuing that enhancement of the zone patrols. And there are some other items in there as well that will be in the material should get it sometime in the morning that we'll go over in the workshop session.
Okay. Also on the 95, 96, 97 buses that we're replacing, what are we going to do with the old buses?
We're going to part company with them. Mr. Skinner will dispose of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Wells?
Yeah, a couple of things. Because I wasn't here at the committee of the whole and didn't have the opportunity to say this, I want to say it now. I'm very appreciative of the attention that we pay in Granville County Schools to safety and security. I believe that we have one of the strongest, most secure systems, certainly in the state and maybe in the nation. And I really appreciate Dr. Royster's leadership in being aggressive and being sure that our schools are safe and they're secure. And kind of being ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. And I know you have a lot of staff that helps you with that. So I'm really appreciative of that. I don't lose any sleep at night because I know you guys are doing all you can to keep our kids safe and secure and as happy as we can keep them when they're in school. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Wells, and thank you on behalf of all those folks, and there are quite a few of them in this room tonight that do all that work to help to ensure that we're as safe as we can possibly be.
Okay, and then I have one question just related to the $2 million for accelerating the camera replacement. So that is money that we already had in the debt service projection, so that the $2 million now that we're taking from fund balance, how are we going to shift that $2 million in terms of what the needs are going to be in the long-range facilities plan?
We'll bring that to you when we do the capital budget in June. I think it might be very likely that might shift to some other security-related item. One other thing that we mentioned in the committee of the whole, and we now have a number on it that we'll bring forward to you next month, we're enhancing the capture areas, putting barriers up above the counters in all the schools. We've done 14 so far. To accelerate that, it's going to require about another $3 million, and we'll probably ask that come from fund balance in order to speed that process as well. But I suspect there will be other things. The other thing that was mentioned in the committee of the whole was the administration undertaking a thorough examination of all of our facilities and all of our security processes, protocols, supports, that sort of thing. So we will be coming back to you with likely some additional recommendations about things, and that would help to fund some of those things.
Okay, so you said $3 million from fund balance, but you meant from the facilities plan?
No, we'd come to you in order to accelerate that as well.
Okay.
That would have had a much longer timeline than 2 years to take care of the difference in the 14 that have already been done and the number remaining to be done. And I don't have that number with me tonight. But
so that's $3 million in additional fund balance, but the $2 million that's coming, that now we aren't funding out of the debt service, or that we're going to move to debt service, that you're saying even that $2 million.
Over 2 years, that would obviously free up around $2 million.
Right.
I think it's very likely we will come back with some other recommendations where ultimately that $2 million would probably go towards school security as well. We're just not far enough along in the process to say that for certain.
Okay.
I think it's very likely that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments by board members? The motion on the floor comes from committee and does not require a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda, item 6.03, is the naming of the East Side High School track.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Sailors.
I move to approve the naming of the East Side High School track for Mr. Ed Bemke.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
If I might interject on behalf of those making that request, many of you know Coach Bemke. For those of you who don't, he is recognized nationally as a leader, track and field, cross country. He has been inducted into the Hall of Fame for his leadership in those events. And I think there are numerous letters in here about Coach Bemke, the impact he's had on students, student athletes over the years. And one thing that is almost consistent in just about every one of them, they name 3 or 4 people that are the experts, the coaches for track, field, cross country in the state of South Carolina. And knowing several of those over the years, and having known and heard of Ed Bemke before I ever came to Granville County, he's certainly there in good company. He is recognized as one of the most outstanding track and field cross-country coaches by his peers, by his former athletes, and by that community. And I certainly, on behalf of the administration, recommend to you the approval of the naming in honor of Coach Bemke and his many contributions in the almost 50 years of his services, track and field. Very well deserving.
Thank you, Dr. Worcester. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda, item 6.04, is the approval of legal representation.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Meek.
Make a motion to approve providing legal representation for Susan Moray in accordance with board policy GAEA in the matter of 2018-CP-23-1192.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries. The next item, 6.05.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the annual personnel contract recommendations as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by the board? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Our next item, 7.01, is the Internal Auditing Services Project Status Report. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're presenting our monthly status report on projects that we're currently working on, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions by board members on the update? And that's for information only, so thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thank you.
Our next item, 8.01, is committee liaison reports. I will start with Ms. Grayson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The House has passed its version of the 2018-19 budget and has left the base student cost the same. It's now going over. The Senate has made some adjustments, and they're in the middle of the budget process. One chamber is going to be out next week. The next one's going to be out the following week, so we're just kind of in wait-and-see mode. We don't anticipate just a huge jump in funding. Imagine that. And we are going down to, I do want to announce to the board that 2 days at the Capitol, the 2 days that the South Carolina School Boards Association goes to Columbia to lobby, will be April the 12th, which is the week after spring break on Thursday starting at 9 o'clock. Mr. Sailors has graciously agreed to drive the van.
I did?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And so if y'all can, you need to go ahead and pre-register. I don't know if the pre-registration deadline has passed, but that will be the third meeting of a 3-day week for us. So keep that in mind if you decide you want to spend the day in Columbia with us. But I encourage you if you can. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Grayson. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Grayson? I just had one comment, if I may, and that is to say that I had several people reach out to me to say thank you for the work that you all initiated and we did regarding our recent resolution. So thank you again for that. It was nice to be so well received in the community. Ms. Wells, do you have any update?
Well, our Instructional Policies Committee met after we received our teacher survey information back and had a chance to review that, and then following the class workshop that Dr. Royster led for the board. We are hopefully on the verge of having our final policies to bring in the next couple of months. We have 3 left, so we'll deal with class size, scheduling for instruction, and the graduation requirements. So we hope to have those finished up by the end of the school year for sure.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Ms. Wells? Okay. Ms. Rollletter?
I don't have a question, but I would like to thank Ms. Wells for her leadership in this long, difficult process of revising these policies. We've done an awful lot of reading and an awful lot of meeting and an awful lot of talking, and you have led us admirably, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Lewis, you may not have an update, but I will call on you.
Madam Chairman, just an update on the Board Policy BBC Committee. We've scheduled a meeting for Tuesday, April the 24th at 4 p.m. And so we will circulate that, the most recent draft of that work to the board so that anyone who would like to attend can attend that meeting. Hopefully, we are in the home stretch and may have a recommendation at the May Cal, assuming that it comes out of committee on April the 24th.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next, a brief update from Chair's Update 8.02. I just want to say that we had one additional workshop at the end of the last Committee of the Whole, and I appreciate the several hours of extended stay by the board. and the work that the administration did to bring together a lot of research about class size, but also a summary of the survey results, and the Instructional Policy Committee working to get questions out to teachers was in collaboration with other questions that Dr. Royster wanted to ask. But we were delighted by the results and the discussion and the focus on what our teachers believe is relevant today relating to class size, given the change in standards, the change in expectations, the way we plan, and with hands-on learning, etc. So we are still enjoying and will continue to take that very seriously, and I appreciated the extra workshop on that topic. And I know that Dr. Royster has work ongoing with that he we would expect to see in the comprehensive ed plan draft and also in the budget process. And we are pleased that our board made it one of its top priorities for improving the environment of the classroom by supporting teachers and lowering class size. So we have that going underway in several fronts. The brief summary of the afternoon experiment of learning conversations was something that came out of a desire back in the fall to have board members be able to share their best thinking with specific staff who are engaged in work in the district, and to be able to ask questions in a much less formal basis for something that they may or may not decide to follow up by putting on the CAL, but special interest topics that not everyone maybe shares the same passion about, but a voluntary circulation over 4 different topics today, including reading instruction, Montessori instruction, different ways of the arts and potential planning for arts in the district. And Mr. Knotts, what was your special topic that you provided for the 4th group that I never got to? I'm so sorry.
It concerned revenue decisions that did not involve the general fund budget.
Okay, and all of these questions were generated by board members, and I really appreciate Dr. Royster making it possible so that we would be able to have these small topic conversations prior to the board meeting, and we'll have one more of those in May prior to that board meeting. That's it for my update, and the final item on our agenda is item 9.01, our monthly financial report. Dr. Royster?
I do not believe that Mr. Knotts has a formal report. Correct, Mr. Knotts?
That is correct.
But we'll answer any question you might have. He's saving all of his words for Thursday morning.
Mr. Meek has a few words, it seems.
Mr. Knotts, can you tell me what the assigned and unassigned reserve fund balance is? I've let you ride for a few months now.
The assigned, the assigned is $11.3 million, and that money has been assigned by the board a year or so ago to help with the personalized learning device program, 4-in-1 devices for the students. The unassigned is $189.3 million.
How much was it? I'm sorry.
189.3. Now, I'll caution that that is not unusual to be that size for this time of the year, because this is in the December, January, and February timeframe. We collect the bulk of our property tax revenue. And based on the graphic you see in your financial statements, that amount will start going down effective this month, because in February we'll get the bulk of our property tax revenue.
Is that $11 million included in the $189 million?
It is not.
It is not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Knotts? Hearing none. Mr. Meek.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Thank you very much for a very successful meeting, and to all the staff who helped make it possible.